Queensland researchers have developed 2 new drugs which could prevent COVID-19 infection and transmission, even if the recipient has not been vaccinated. Joining us with more on this live is Professor Sudha, Senior Researcher from QIMR Berghofer. Appreciate your time, Professor. Explain for us in what instances you see the drug being used, and in layman's terms for us, how does it work?
Okay, thanks for having me today. So what we found, our findings were published yesterday, and what we found for the first time is a previously unknown way the SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, enters or exploits the human cells. And once it enters the human cells, how it replicates. And what this means is that we've made 2 drugs, one that acts very much like a cloak around the human cell, or a padlock, to prevent the virus from entering. And if the virus does enter, then the second drug prevents that from replicating. So what we consider these drugs to be used is that we feel that these can go hand in hand with the vaccine. So as we've just seen recently in India, and we've recently seen here locally in Victoria, that COVID is here to stay. And so we're going to need multiple tools in our toolbox if we're going to fight this pandemic. So the vaccines work by really allowing our own immune system to fight the infection. Whereas what our drugs do is they prevent the virus from entering and replicating in the so they're much more faster acting, and we call them early intervention drugs.
So this sort of drug could be good for people who can't be vaccinated for some reason, otherwise could be used alongside the vaccine. You're not suggesting it should replace the vaccine for those who might be hesitant about getting vaccinated?
Absolutely. I mean, the vaccines are an essential arsenal of any pandemic. But we do know that, as you've just as mentioned, that there are unfortunately many members of our community who cannot take vaccinations. And we also know that many elderly people in our community, vaccines are just not going to be as effective. And therefore, we are going to need alternatives. And really, by having a combination of these sort of drugs and vaccines, what we're essentially doing is we're preventing from the infection becoming severe. So the person's own immune system can start attacking the virus.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating development, and congratulations to you for getting this far. Just how early on, though, are you in terms of trials for the drugs? I mean, all going well, and I know there are a lot of hurdles to jump through yet. What is the timeline for when these could be available for use?
So that's a very good question. So we've done a lot of essential animal studies, and in those sort of studies, we've shown that our drugs are safe and there's no toxicity. We also know that our drugs can be stored at room temperature and can be transported easily. And we also know that our drugs don't need any special manufacturing facilities. We can make large quantities of our drug, all of that which is essential for human testing, which we're aiming to do in the next few months. But importantly, we're wanting to trial worldwide in countries where the COVID-19 cases are very large, which means that one thing is to say we'll start human testing. The other is we want to be testing and finding out the outcome as soon as possible. So this is why the study is part of an international consortium. So we're really aiming to start human testing as soon as possible, with the aim to get these drugs to humans, hopefully towards next year.
So does that mean that the human testing won't be happening here in Australia? And also, I'm just interested, in this pandemic era, is it easy to get people to line up for those human trials, or is it actually a challenge to get people to volunteer to be your guinea pigs?
Yes, so firstly, absolutely, the trial is absolutely being done here in Australia. But at the end of the day, we want Australians to benefit from this sort of medicine. So we also want to be able to do the trials where we can do the testing quickly. So Australia will be one of the sites, but we'll also be going globally as well. But what's very important about this sort of testing is, as I've mentioned to you, these drugs are early intervention drugs. So we're not looking at patients who are already severe and hospitalized. So it's people who have been tested positive and we know that they're infectious. So there are a lot of members like that in our community. So we don't believe that we will have any issues in getting people to test these drugs.
Professor Ra, congratulations again and best of luck with everything. We all are rooting for you and hope that it all works out as you'd hope.
Thank you very much for your time.